So there was some rumours circulating around that Jerry Schumacher would be joining the University of Oregon as the head coach or the director of track and field and cross country, and those rumours were true. So Jerry Schumacher has joined Oregon University as the director of track and field and cross country, and this opens a whole can of worms in terms of pretty much the Nike US setup in every single aspect. And in this video we're going to talk about what we think about the Jerry Schumacher move first of all, and where that leaves the likes of Bowerman Track Club, Oregon Track Club and the University of Oregon, because the whole Nike setup in the US is currently completely up in the air, which is pretty exciting, and hopefully some good things will come from it. Anyways, let us know your thoughts on this specific move from Jerry Schumacher to the University of Oregon, and always please subscribe if you're not, and also like and comment on this video. One consistent figure we believe will remain the same is Union Track Club. That is based in Portland with the head coach of Pete Julian, with athletes such as Donovan Brazier, Craig Engels, Jessica Hull and Raven Rogers, amongst many other world-class athletes. This is a very new group, and we don't think this group will be affected by any of the current things happening within the Nike setup, unless other athletes from previous groups join their group as an addition. Other than that, we don't think many changes will happen there. I think the main one is what will happen to Bowerman Track Club, and yes, I am sporting an awful outfit to just sort of rep the Bowerman Track Club, because who knows what might happen in the coming weeks. First things first, Jerry Schumacher leaving. Jerry Schumacher is arguably one of the best coaches in the world, so the main question is, how will you replace Jerry Schumacher? And I think the short answer is you can't, especially since when you sort of talk about the coaches, especially ones in the US, you think of maybe Dathan Ritzenhein and Mike Smith, who are potentially the caliber in order to replace Jerry at Bowerman. Dathan Ritzenhein seems happy at On, because that group is coming along very nicely, and On as a company are coming along very nicely. And Mike Smith is at NAU and are seeing a lot of cross-country success. So that also seems a little bit of a strange move, but it's not too far out of the possibility. Saying that, if they can't find a new coach, it does seem strange that the most iconic Nike team, or at least the most iconic Nike team in the US, would be dismantled. So that is another question that we're going to touch on later on in this video. The same applies for Oregon Track Club. Roland has already left the role as head coach, so that means Oregon Track Club do not have a head coach, and that is kind of strange when you've got Bowerman and Oregon Track Club both not having a head coach at the same time. It does seem like it was planned, or some sort of communication was done where they sort of knew this was going to happen, and now there's an opportunity where you could potentially merge the teams, which again is what we think the main outcome will be from this. The final piece of this puzzle is what happens to the University of Oregon. So Teare and Cole Hocker already train as professional athletes with the University of Oregon, with Ben Thomas as their head coach. So it isn't outside of the possibility that Jerry Schumacher enters into this director role and more professional athletes move to Eugene to be coached within the same setup at Hayward Field. Some people have been saying it would be strange to have Ben Thomas and Jerry Schumacher both in a role at Oregon, because they kind of fulfill the same in especially distance speciality, but I think it kind of creates a scenario where a super team or some form of extremely talented or extremely fulfilled distance setup across 800 all the way up to the 10k or further would basically make Oregon dominate. So the things that are going on leave me with two potential scenarios. Both are pretty outlandish, and the first one is probably a little bit more unlikely than the second, but I would like the second one to come to fruition, because I think it'd be really good for the sport, and also just be really interesting to see how it plays out. So the first one would take a lot of moving pieces, and that would be Sean Brosnan to NAU, and then Mike Smith to Bowerman Track Club, and then OTC, Oregon Track Club, get disbanded, and either athletes join Bowerman, Union, or this Oregon Hayward Field group, what still doesn't have a name. That would be scenario number one, which obviously involves Oregon Track Club being dismantled, Mike Smith, who is the NAU coach, moving to Bowerman, and the Newbury Park coach is obviously the coach of Nico Young, or previous coach of Nico Young, Colin Salmon, Lex Young, Leo Young, so a very good coach. If he joined NAU and then down the line they could form a Young Salmon super team, which would be pretty cool to see as well. Secondly, and this is the scenario I'd want to see, and that is for BTC and OTC to emerge together with the University of Oregon's team. So as Jerry Schumacher goes to Oregon, they bring the BTC and OTC athletes to Hayward Field, or the OTC athletes or BTC athletes decide to maybe split. Some might join Union and others may go to Hayward Field. This also makes sense because Bill Bowerman, which the Bowerman Track Club is named after, was a University of Oregon coach, so it kind of fits in with the history of Nike, which just is a bit more poetic, and it's kind of nice to have them training at Hayward Field. So with this, they would keep the Bowerman Track Club name, but just merge and also change location to Eugene. That way there is 2 Nike groups in Oregon. That is the Union Athletics Club in Portland and the Bowerman Track Club / University of Oregon team in Eugene. Obviously, Oregon University is already essentially a feeder for Nike athletes because of the relationship with Phil Knight, the founder and owner of Nike, as he also went to Oregon and Bill Bowerman coached at Oregon. So it is a full circle history thing, as well as Phil Knight still supporting Oregon. And with this, Jerry Schumacher and Ben Thomas, as well as professional athletes, will just incentivize any college students who are thinking about going professionally after college to go to Oregon to pursue distance running, because they have the best, arguably the best 2 coaches in the country with professional athletes, and also probably the best training setup in Hayward Field. So really, it's essentially a absolute super team of anyone who wants to join Nike or anyone who wants to get the best out of their distance running. They would go to the University of Oregon. Due to the NIL rules in the NCAA, Nike can already build a relationship with the University of Oregon athletes, which then just directly feeds them into the pro team when they have finished their studies, which again, from a Nike point of view, is great, because they get first picks on the athletes, they get to develop the athletes before they're even Nike athletes, and they know that they're going to get the best coaching and the best setup, as well as also having all the history, which can only really help with marketing and just have it as sort of an iconic hub for distance running. So those are my scenarios. Let us know what you think. I've heard that announcement will be coming later today, and we'll report on that on our Instagram, so just make sure you follow our Instagram if you don't already, and we'll also do an updated YouTube video if there's any new information that comes out. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment, and goodbye.